Hello everyone and welcome to my Ultimate Beginner's Guide for The Outer Worlds 2. In this video I'll go over everything you need to know in order to jump straight in and start playing, without too much confusion as to how things work. There will be timestamps on screen so you can easily navigate between sections as required, but if you're after all the info, then just keep watching. The first section I want to cover are traits and flaws. When first creating your character at the very start of the game, you will encounter this screen. From here you will be able to select a defining trait for your character. These can provide you with unique effects or special boosts that will last the entire game. The standard effects for these will be listed in the text of a trait underneath the flavour text. However, in addition to providing the listed abilities, all the traits in the game can provide some additional form of assistance that will only become apparent as you play the game further. For example, the Brawny trait allows you to pry open jammed doors, while both Brilliant and Lucky can sometimes allow you to find solutions to problems in an unconventional way, bypassing standard skill checks. There's no wrong choice when it comes to traits, as all can benefit your playthrough. It's simply a case of picking whichever you like the look of most. While you must pick one positive trait, you can opt to also pick a second, especially helpful for those of us who struggle with limited choices. However, if you pick two positive traits, then you must also pick one of the negative traits as well. These will give you some sort of restriction or debuff to your character, though depending on how you play, these negative effects may not be too much of a downside. For example, if you're only planning on leveling a few different skills, then the dumb trait restricting you to 7 of 12 skills is no real downside at all. Do take some time to decide which traits you want for your character, as besides one chance to respec after completing the very first mission, these will stay with you for the rest of your playthrough. On to flaws now, which like traits have a positive and negative side to them, but unlike traits, you do not get to choose from a list. Instead, as you play the game, you will occasionally be presented with a pop-up screen like this, offering you a choice to either accept or decline a flaw. Flaws provide you with special effects, typically a single positive effect balanced out by a single negative. For example, the bad knees flaw increases your movement speed while crouched, but makes it so you make a crunching sound whenever you crouch down or stand up, alerting nearby enemies. If you select this flaw, then you will perfectly gain both of these effects. However, if you choose to reject the flaw instead, then you won't get the chance to accept it later down the line. The flaws you get offered tend to be based around how you're playing the game. If you keep stealing items, then you might be offered the kleptomania flaw, increasing the sale value of stolen items, but making it so you involuntarily pinch things as you walk around. Lie all the time in conversation, and you might be offered up compulsive liar, giving you more lies to use when talking to NPCs, but making it so you always have to lie when given the opportunity. While flaws can be a lot of fun to play around with, and some can be very powerful depending on how you play, if you're not certain about taking a flaw or not, then it's generally better off to reject them. The positives tend to be decent, but the downsides can often be crippling if you don't already know how to work around them. Let's talk about skills, which are the main way to shape your character as you play. Every time you level up, you will gain 2 skill points to spend on any skills of your choosing, increasing either a single skill by 2 points, or 2 different skills by 1 point each. Additionally, when creating your character, you can choose to specialise in 2 different skills, or 3 if you picked the Brilliant trait. This allows you to immediately raise those skills by 2 points, giving them a starting boost to how effective they are. It also raises the maximum level you can raise that skill to. By default, you can only have a skill at the same level that your player character is. This means a level 4 character can only have a maximum of 4 points invested into melee. However, if that skill is a chosen specialisation of yours, then you can instead raise it 2 points beyond your level, in this case to 6. This isn't super critical to worry about while leveling, but it does mean that you can increase your specialised skills faster than any of the others. The absolute maximum any skill can be raised to is 20, and the level cap for the player character is 30. As you will usually only gain 2 skill points a level, this basically means you can only max out a trio of different skills at most. As such, you'll need to decide which skills you want to focus on and which aren't really needed. The game does a good job of showing you what the different skills provide as their standard bonuses, so I won't go over what every skill does, but I will cover a couple of side effects from choosing skills, which you might not immediately be aware of when starting your initial playthrough. First off are perks. Perks are special power-ups or effects that you can unlock for your character every other level. You unlock a perk point at levels 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on, all the way up to level 30. This means you will have a total of 15 perk points to spend on your character, but which perks you have unlocked is dictated largely by your skills. The vast majority of perks in the game have some level of skill requirement. As an example, if you want to purchase the Crabble Rancher perk, which improves the damage for marksman rifles, shotguns and pistols, then you will need to have at least 2 points invested in the gun skill. If you're scared about losing faction reputation during dialogue, then you can always pick up the face reader perk in order to help avoid this, but only if you have already put 5 points into the observation skill. The game does allow you to plan out your perks ahead of time by letting you mark certain perks as favourites. Just go into the perk screen at any time and browse through the various perks in order to see if any of them catch your eye, and then see what the requirements are to unlock them. The final thing I feel I should bring up surrounding skills are skill checks. On top of their listed effects and unlocking new perks, every single skill in the game has skill checks which you will encounter as you play. Many of these will be found in dialogue, and you will often see replies that have a relevant skill icon next to them. If your skill level is high enough, then you can select that option, often making the conversation go more your way, or just adding some extra flavour into the interaction. There are also many skill checks while out adventuring. Engineering checks crop up quite often, allowing you to reactivate dormant machines or power up broken bits of machinery. Sometimes you will come across tables that are littered with various materials for construction, and after inspection you'll be given skill checks to attempt. If you have a high explosive skill, then you'll often be able to craft grenades at these points. If you are instead skilled in medicine, then maybe you can make some inhaler charges to stock up on. Skill checks will provide you with myriad options and rewards as you play, but keep in mind that you'll never be able to pass every single one. If you only focus on a few different skills, then any check that doesn't come under that trio will be impossible for you to pass. However, if you try and spread out your skills evenly, then you may be able to pass the low requirements of many early game skill checks, but in the second half of the game, you will struggle to pass any of the high level checks you encounter. Ultimately, which skills you pick really just comes down to what sort of build you want to play as, and there's really no wrong choice there. If you'd like to see an example of a level 10 build that I was using, then check out my latest video. It shows a guns focused character, and gives an idea as to how a more combat heavy build is created. I'll now go over the various pieces of equipment that you'll be using as you travel through Arcadia. First off, let's cover weapons, which are the items you'll be using to deal damage in combat. There are 3 major types of weapons you will encounter as you play. These are guns, melee, and explosives, and each are governed by their respective skill. Guns are your standard ranged options, and include things like pistols and rifles. They can deal significant damage without needing to get too close to enemies, though they will eat through ammunition quite rapidly. Every gun in your inventory will tell you what type of ammo it uses, and at the bottom of the screen the total amount of that ammunition you will have will be highlighted. This can be useful for checking which weapons you can afford to shoot recklessly, and which you're running light on and should conserve your shots with. Melee weapons are up next, and these are split up into one-handed and two-handed variants. Two-handed weapons deal very high levels of damage to enemies within striking range, but tend to swing quite slowly. One-handed weapons typically have lower base damage, but faster swing speed than their two-handed variant. On top of this, they tend to have a higher stealth attack multiplier, making them ideal weapons for sneak attacks. If you ever want to check the in-depth stats of any of your weapons in your inventory, press the inspect button and you'll get extra information about how the weapons function. The final weapon category are explosives, which are housed in a slightly different section of the inventory. This is because these are throwables, which you have equipped alongside your standard weapons. Explosives are great for dealing a big burst of damage all at once, and excel at clearing crowds, but they are consumed upon use. This means you have to take extra note of how many grenades you have left, as it can be easy to run out of them if you're a bit of an explosive addict. Let's now cover armour and headwear. Armour is also split up into 3 different categories: light, medium, and heavy. Which type your armour is will be shown in the top right of the item card, and above that piece of text will be a number. This number lets you know how much protection the armour provides. With the higher the number, the more damage it prevents. Light armour will typically provide the lowest amount of armour, but also comes with high evasion chance and combat sprint speed. Combat sprint speed is fairly self-explanatory, making you run faster while in a firefight. Evasion, however, is a little less clear, as while this effect does give you a chance to avoid attacks entirely, it only works against ranged attacks. This means melee, explosives, or environmental hazards can't be avoided. For this reason, light armour is typically best used by long-range builds, who keep out of the thick of things. Heavy armour provides a large amount of damage resistance, but doesn't come with either of these extra effects. If you get really stuck into things and take a lot of damage, then heavy armour is the way to go. And finally, there's medium armour, which provides a moderate amount of protection, as well as a decent boost to all effects I mentioned before. Medium armour is a good choice if you're not wanting to specialise too much, or if you like to fight at both close and long range. As well as your armour piece, you can also equip a single item of headwear, such as a hat or helmet. These do not provide any armour bonus, but come with special effects that improve your character in some way. These effects might increase your total hit points, improve damage by increasing your chance to land critical hits, or make it so you can use gadgets more frequently. All of these items I've listed so far come with mod slots on them, allowing them to be improved in various ways. I'll cover how to add mods to your equipment in the crafting section, but did want to mention them briefly now, as mods can sometimes drastically change how a weapon or armour piece behaves. As an example, take Rattler here. This is a revolver that has the Snake Shot mod on it, making it fire like a shotgun instead. Most unique items come with some special mod like this, which makes them behave differently from standard gear, so they're well worth taking a proper look at in your inventory and giving some field testing too. Unique weapons and armour can be identified in your inventory by their gold background, which helps them to stand out when browsing through all your gear. Now that the standard equipment has been covered, I want to briefly talk about healing items. There are two main item types that you use for healing: food and your medical inhaler. Food items can be used to heal when outside of combat. You will find plenty of food as you explore, and you can either eat it right away if you are missing hit points, or pick it up and save it for later. Do keep in mind that there's no carry weight limit in this game, so feel free to stock up on as much food as you can find. While walking around, you can hit the healing button when outside of combat in order to top up your health with any food stored in your inventory. Inside of combat, healing is a little more tricky, as you instead use the medical inhaler. This is activated the same way as food healing, but behaves slightly differently. It still restores your health, but how much depends on the type of primer you have equipped. In this section of your inventory, you can switch out different types of primer that you have found on your travels. The effects will be listed on the item card, and the healing side of things is quite straightforward. The trickier part of a medical inhaler is the toxicity rating. This will tell you how much it adds to the toxicity meter on your character, which is shown just under the health bar. Every time you use the medical inhaler, this bar will fill up somewhat. Once it's fully filled up, you will crash, as the game refers to it. This means you can no longer use the medical inhaler until the bar fully empties, which it will slowly do over time. This mechanic does mean that you can't just spam your healing item during battle, and instead need to try and space out your inhaler uses in order to not crash. Additionally, you don't have infinite inhaler charges, so even if you space out your uses to ensure you don't crash, you still will need to build up charges to spend later on. Fortunately, doing this is quite straightforward, as charges are typically built up by finding drugs in the environment. Picking them up grants a percentage of inhaler charge, slowly building up the number of uses you have for the future. The final thing to cover in the equipment section are gadgets, and I promise to keep this one a lot more brief. There are 4 different activated gadgets you come across as you play, and each require energy to use. The energy meter is shown by this blue bar on the HUD, and how much is used depends on the gadget in question. If you want to increase the total energy you have available, in order to use things like tactical time dilation for longer, then investing in the science skill is the main way to do this. In order to engage with the crafting system of The Outer Worlds 2, you will need to use a workbench. These can be found all over the place, no matter which moon or planet you found yourself on. There's also one aboard your ship, the Incognito, and if travelling with the companion Niles, then you can also access a workbench in the field by talking to him. Once you're in the workbench screen, you'll then be presented with these 4 options, and I'll be going over each of them in order, starting with crafting. The crafting screen allows you to create a wide variety of helpful items, such as grenades, ammo, and mods. You can switch between the different categories of items at the top of the screen, in order to more easily find what it is you're after. When you hover over the item you want to craft, the screen will then show you what base resources are required in order to make that item. So long as you have all the resources you need, you can simply hold the craft button, and then you'll create your desired item. Nice and simple. In order to craft anything, you will need to have found the recipe for it. This is often done automatically within the game, such as when picking up a mod for the first time, but you can also purchase crafting recipes at many different vendors, and several vending machines are jam-packed with various recipes to learn. The second workbench category is mods. This is where you can attach upgrades to your equipment. You will already need the mod in your inventory in order to attach it to the selected bit of gear, and that item will also need an open space for the mod. Most ranged weapons have spaces free for a single barrel, add-on, and optic mod, meaning you can attach one of each of those, but not multiple different barrel types all at once. Melee weapons, armour, and helmets come with different mod slots than ranged weapons, because obviously you're not going to attach a scope to your clothing. Armour and helmet mods tend to work for any type of that item, but when it comes to weapons, you do need a specific mod for the precise base variant of weapon it is. For example, there are different silencer mods for the repeating rifle and the light pistol. Mods cannot be removed from the equipment they've been added onto, so make sure to double check you've selected the correct bit of gear before confirming installation. The penultimate section in the workbench is breakdown. In this menu you can scrap just about anything in your inventory, reducing it to base components. Hovering over an item will then tell you what materials you receive when scrapping it. Above this you can also see a list of all the different crafting materials in the game. By clicking on one of these, the game will then filter the menu to only show you which items will yield you some of those resources once broken down, making it easier to get the base parts you need. Keep in mind that anything you scrap for parts will be permanently removed from your inventory, so only break down items you're sure won't be missed. Finally, at the workbench we have the Party Upgrades menu. Here you can provide permanent upgrades to your various followers. In order to do this, you first need to get your hands on an upgrade kit. Every follower will have 2 upgrade kits, specific to them and them only. In order to unlock these, you will typically need to complete a companion quest for them, where the reward is generally going to be their upgrade kit. After receiving the relevant upgrade kit, you can then head to your workbench and pick both a weapon and armour upgrade for your follower. This allows you to improve both the offensive and defensive capabilities of your allies. Unlike most upgrades, you can freely switch between the 2 choices whenever you find yourself back at a workbench, so feel free to play around with the options here to see what works best. In the final section of this video, I will go over all the little bits and pieces which will help you with getting around the game world, which didn't fit into the other categories. First up is the map and minimap. The standard map is quite easy to understand. The Fog of War often covers a large part of the map, but this can also make it easy to spot areas you've not yet been to. Buildings and points of interest also stand out quite well on the map, and points of interest that you've travelled to before will have these blue circles marking them, that you can click on in order to fast travel to. The minimap, located in the bottom left corner of the screen, is a smaller version of a standard map, providing you with quick reference as to where you're headed. There are a couple of added points to take note of when it comes to the minimap. The first is enemy detection, which is indicated by red markings. When enemies are distant, you will see a curved red line on the outside of the minimap, indicating the direction of the enemy. Once you get closer, you will then see a red zone appear, showing you the general location of your target. And once you spot the enemy yourself, that will then change to a specific marker, showing you exactly where they are. The last point of note for the minimap is the little marker which indicates which direction is north. There's this tiny white arrow on a grey background, which always points to north. Knowing this can make it easier to navigate around the world, as you can always find your bearings if you know which way north is. With the map covered, I now want to talk about Xyranium poisoning. At some point you will end up encountering these strange clouds of gas. This is Xyranium, and it is incredibly dangerous. If you hang around unprotected in a dense cloud for even just a few seconds, then you will build up your poisoning meter and die. If you are dealing with a lighter cloud, then you can survive, but will build up Xyranium poisoning nonetheless. This will lower your toxicity maximum, making it easier for you to crash from using the medical inhaler. On top of that, if you get too much of this bar filled, then you'll end up with either heavy or light Xyranium poisoning, a status effect which reduces your max health and makes it so your character will cough on occasion, making stealth drastically more difficult. Fortunately, there are 2 ways to easily remove this negative effect, alongside clearing the toxicity bar entirely. The first of these is to visit a doctor. For just a small number of bits, you can pay to get yourself back to full health. The other way to cure yourself is to find an auto-dock, which are installed on walls all across the system. They can be activated in order to fill up your health bar, generate some extra inhaler charges, and remove all traces of Xyranium from your system. The catch is that each of these is a one-use only item, so you can't just go back to your favourite free doctor machine whenever you feel a little sickly. Finally, I want to take a quick moment to address reputation and gaining access to different locations. Some places that you visit will have this yellow holographic barrier in front of them, indicating that you will be considered to be trespassing if you cross the line into them. Don't walk through these barriers unprepared, as doing so will cause the people within to attack you, even if you're not already hostile towards them. Most of these zones can become friendly, but the path to doing this is somewhat varied. Sometimes you will need to complete a quest for the faction in control of the area, other times you need to have your reputation raised up high enough, and sometimes it's as simple as chatting to the guards outside and convincing them you should be granted entry. And that was my ultimate beginner's guide for The Outer Worlds 2. If you found this video helpful, then please like and subscribe to show your appreciation. If you have any questions left unanswered, or just want to offer some tips of your own to other players, then feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you'd like to see more frequent Outer Worlds 2 content from me, then check out Bad Company Gaming, my challenge run channel where I'm doing a full playthrough of the game right now. But for this channel, I'll be working on some more builds in the future, so there's still going to be a bit more of this game to come. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.